15 years after she had chased her dreams to New York City, Clara Whitmore returned to the quiet embrace of Montana Valley. The valley hadn't changed much. The same golden fields stretched beneath the vast sky, painted in shades of amber by the setting sun. The same wooden fences lined the dirt road leading toward Bozeman. And the same old ranch house stood proudly at the edge of the land, its white paint slightly faded but still full of memories. Clara stepped out of her car slowly, breathing in the crisp air she hadn't realized she'd missed so deeply. New York had given her opportunity, success, and independence. But it had also given her sleepless nights and a constant ache for something quieter, something real. Standing there, with the scent of hay and earth around her, she felt as though time had folded in on itself. From the barn doorway, Daniel Hayes watched her return. He hadn't expected her to come back, not after the farewell she had given the valley all those years ago. Back then, she had been full of fire and ambition, determined to see the world beyond the shadow of the Rocky Mountains. Daniel had admired her courage, even as it quietly broke his heart. He remembered the day she left. They had stood near the old oak tree by the creek, the one where they had carved their initials when they were barely tall enough to reach the bark. She had hugged him tightly, whispering that she would write and visit. Daniel had nodded, hiding the storm inside his chest. He had wanted to tell her then, to confess that his feelings had grown deeper than childhood friendship. But fear held him back. Fear that she would see him as nothing more than a ranch boy with dusty boots and simple dreams. Fear that his love would feel like an anchor when she needed wings. So he let her go without saying a word. Years passed. Letters came at first, then fewer and fewer. Daniel stayed, just as he always had. He took over the ranch after his father's passing, working long days beneath the open sky. He told himself the valley was enough. That loving Clara in silence was easier than risking the friendship they once shared. But now she was here again. Not as the girl who left, but as a woman shaped by city lights and hard-earned success. Her hair was shorter, her posture more confident. Yet when she turned toward the fields, squinting against the sun, Daniel saw the same softness in her eyes. Clara walked toward the barn, her boots crunching against gravel. For a moment, their eyes met across the distance. Time seemed to pause, the valley holding its breath. Daniel felt the past rush back. The laughter, the long horseback rides, the quiet promises made beneath endless skies. The words he had buried for years stirred once more, demanding to be heard. But as Clara smiled gently and said his name for the first time in 15 years, Daniel realized something important. The valley might not have changed, but everything between them had. The sun dipped lower behind the distant peaks of the Rocky Mountains, spilling warm orange light across Montana Valley. The evening breeze carried the scent of pine and fresh earth as Clara walked toward the old creek, her boots brushing against tall grass that shimmered like gold. Daniel followed a few steps behind, giving her space, though every instinct told him to close the distance. For 15 years, he had imagined this moment in 100 different ways. In some dreams, she returned and ran straight into his arms. In others, she barely recognized him at all. Reality felt quieter, more fragile. Clara stopped near the oak tree where their initials were still carved, faded but visible. She traced the rough bark with her fingers and smiled softly. "I can't believe it's still here," she murmured. "Some things don't change," Daniel replied, his voice low but steady. She turned to face him fully. The fading sunlight caught her eyes, making them shine in a way that made his chest tighten. "You never left," she said, almost as a statement rather than a question. Daniel shook his head. "This place, it's home." He hesitated, then added, "It always was." Clara studied him carefully, as if trying to read the years written across his face. "I used to think I'd come back sooner," she admitted. "But life in New York City moved so fast. Every day felt like I was chasing something." "And did you catch it?" Daniel asked gently. She gave a small, thoughtful laugh. "I caught success. I caught recognition. But somewhere along the way, I think I lost peace." Her gaze drifted across the open fields. "Out there, everything is loud. Here, it's quiet enough to hear your own heart." Daniel's pulse pounded in his ears. For years, he had hidden his feelings beneath routine and responsibility. He convinced himself she deserved someone more polished, someone who belonged in her fast-paced world. But standing there, beneath the vast Montana sky, he realized something powerful. Love wasn't about matching ambition. It was about belonging. "Clara," he began, his voice rough with emotion. "The day you left, there was something I wanted to say." She looked at him, eyes widening slightly. The wind lifted a strand of her hair, brushing it across her cheek. I thought keeping quiet was the right thing, he continued. I didn't want to hold you back. You had dreams bigger than this valley. He gestured toward the endless horizon. But I've learned something over the years. Loving someone doesn't mean clipping their wings. It means being the place they can land. Clara's breath caught softly. Daniel stepped closer, his boots pressing into the damp earth near the creek. I've loved you since we were kids carving our names into this tree. I loved you when you left. And I never stopped. Silence settled between them, heavy but hopeful. The valley seemed to listen. Clara's eyes filled with emotion, but she smiled, a smile he had carried in his memory for 15 long years. She reached for his hand, her fingers warm against his calloused palm. Daniel, she whispered, I came back because I finally understood something too. And beneath the wide Montana sky, where the past and present met, the future quietly began. The following morning, the valley awoke under a pale, soft light. Mist curled along the edges of the fields, and the creek babbled as if it had secrets to tell. Clara had spent the night in the old guest room of the ranch, the same room where she had spent summers as a child, filled with faded wallpaper and sun-warmed wood. She woke to the smell of fresh coffee and horse hay, sounds she had long forgotten but that now felt like a balm to her soul. Daniel was already outside, saddling one of the ranch horses. The rhythmic sound of the stirrups and leather straps brought back memories of simpler days, days when life had been measured in sunrise and sunset, laughter and silence, long rides along the valley trails. Clara watched him through the window, noticing the way the morning light caught the lines of his face, the faint dusting of gray at his temples. Time had carved him differently than she remembered, but the strength and gentleness she had always loved remained. When she stepped outside, Daniel looked up and smiled. It was a slow, easy smile that seemed to carry the weight of years spent waiting. Morning, he said simply, his voice calm but steady. Morning, Clara replied, her own smile softening. I thought I might ride today. Like old times. He gestured to the saddled horse beside him. I figured you might. They mounted and set off along the familiar trails, the horses' hooves thudding rhythmically against the soft earth. They rode in comfortable silence for a while, the air filled only with the sounds of the valley, the wind rustling the tall grass, the distant cry of a hawk, the gentle splash of the creek. Every turn of the trail brought a memory back. Laughter shared after a fall from a horse, picnics beneath the oak tree, long talks under the stars. At the edge of the valley, where the hills rolled into a gentle slope, Daniel finally spoke. You've changed, he said softly. The city shaped you. But you still belong here, Clara. Clara looked at him, eyes searching. I've learned that, she said quietly. I thought leaving was the only way to grow, but I see now that growth doesn't have to mean leaving home. Some things, people, places, they teach you what matters most. Daniel's hand brushed hers on the reins, a subtle connection that spoke more than words ever could. I waited for you, he admitted. Every year, every season, even when I thought you might never come back. Clara's gaze softened. And now I am. Back where it all began, and maybe, back where I was always meant to be. The sun climbed higher, casting golden light across the fields, highlighting the quiet strength of the valley. Daniel pulled his horse alongside hers, and for the first time in years, he let himself imagine a life together with Clara, a life built on laughter, shared memories, and a love that had endured time and distance. They rode on, side by side, the wind in their hair, the valley embracing them as it had always done. And in that moment, with the sky endless above and the earth steady beneath, both realized that some loves were never lost. They were simply waiting, for courage, for patience, and finally, for the right time to return home. The words Daniel had hidden since childhood had been spoken, and the valley itself seemed to breathe a quiet blessing over their reunion, as if every tree, stream, and hill celebrated the love that had endured, waiting for its chance to bloom once more.